This is Cruise Radio.
Cruise Radio is brought to you in part by tripinsurance.com. Travel insurance done right by the people who know travel insurance. Get a quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio. Cruise Radio.
Staff writer Richard Sims just returned from a 7-night cruise on the MSC Meraviglia. It left out of Brooklyn in the New York City area, went down to the Bahamas and Florida and back. He sailed it in the yacht club, and he's here to break it all down and talk to us about it. Hey, Richard.
Hey, Doug, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, happy to have you on, man. I'm excited to hear about this MSC Meraviglia sailing because no stone was left unturned when you were researching this cruise. So I'm excited to hear about that process, too. So, yeah, why don't we just start there and give me some pre-cruise thoughts? Like, what made you want to do this 7-nighter out of New York in the yacht club?
Last April, a year ago, I was invited as a representative of Cruise Radio to go over to the MSC Meraviglia, which had just arrived in New York City. It was just beginning its year-round home porting there. And I went and I spent a day, and most of that day was spent in the yacht club. Like, we had dinner in the yacht club and drinks in the yacht club. We also, we wandered around and got to see all of the other venues and things. But I was so impressed with the yacht club that I said, okay, I need to book this. And I didn't really have time to do it immediately, so it took quite a while. And then when I finally did, I did some quick research and found that for a really good price, I got a great room in the yacht club, especially when you consider all the perks, which we'll talk about. But I was a little nervous because, as we know, and regular listeners know, MSC has, a hit and miss reputation. They're a European line who is trying to break into the American market, and there have been some bumps along the road and some various things that people have complained about, some of which proved to be true, some of which didn't. But yeah, it was. I like trying any new ship that comes to the New York City area because that's my home port. So I was glad to be able to head out to Brooklyn and jump on.
And just to be clear, when you were on a year ago, it was to cover it for Cruise Radio. But this one you paid for out of pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Gotcha.
We didn't even stay overnight. They had us on for the day, and then put us up in a hotel overnight instead of having us stay on the ship, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that was completely separate. This was my money and all my money.
Well, let's talk about it. So you're in the Woodstock, New York area. You had to make your way into the city. So is that a day of event for you, or do you go in early?
Oh, no, definitely day of event.
Mm-hmm.
I left around, I want to say 9:00 in the morning, and was there. It took a little longer. The car service got a little confused. We got a little lost in the bowels of Brooklyn. But took about 2.5 hours maybe by the time I got there. And it was great. I walked right up. They had a little yacht club butler there who walked me in, took me to a private area where they do the check-in. And within maybe 10-15 minutes, everything was completed. I had gone through the private security and walked up on board the ship. They have a butler who, much like when you and I did Norwegian in the Haven, the butler sort of takes you right up to the yacht club, bypasses all the lines, which is very nice. Takes you to a private elevator, takes you up there, and then leaves you in the bar until your actual individual butler can come over and greet you.
Okay, so because you've done both Brooklyn and the Manhattan Cruise Terminal multiple times at this point, which one do you prefer, like, to embark from or out of?
I mean, I prefer Manhattan just because I find it easier to get to than Brooklyn. Brooklyn is kind of out there, and it's an okay port, but there's nothing really special about it. Not that there's really anything special about Manhattan, but I will say that what was cool about Brooklyn was when you are in the Top Sail Lounge, which is the private bar area for the yacht club, they have this wall of windows overlooking the front of the ship. And as you stand there, you can see the Statue of Liberty over in the distance.
Nice.
Obviously, when you sail out of Manhattan, you do pass the Statue of Liberty, but you can't see it when you get on board. As soon as you got on board, you had this killer view of lower Manhattan, and you could see the Empire State Building in the background. So that was very cool. Both Manhattan and Brooklyn were very similar in the check-in process as far as um doing a suite within a suite thing. Like when I did the Haven, it was the same basic process. They walked you in there, they walked you on the ship, the whole. So I would say from an embarkation point, both were great, but that is because we're talking about the yacht club, and it is, as advertised, a different experience than it would have been otherwise.
And is it one of those things where you can't really give me a first impression of Meraviglia? I know you've been on before, but as an embarking passenger, because you were kind of swept away to your own private elevator, like, can you actually, walk through the ship to get to that elevator?
We ended up walking down a hallway, I think it was a hallway of staterooms, if I'm not mistaken, to the private elevator. So really, no, you do not really get much of a chance to take an impression, because you really are being, I don't want to say rushed, you're not being rushed, but you are being taken by your butler, all the way through, skipping everything and going right up so you have a drink in your hand in 2 minutes. So, I mean, your first impression is basically the yacht club, which is a very good first impression to have.
Yeah, and talk to us about the yacht club. And, you said you were left at the bar until your butler could, take you to your stateroom. So what is the yacht club space like? Is it like Norwegian, where you have the restaurant and everything within that complex, or is some of it outside, some of it inside? They're all set up differently. I
really liked the setup on Meraviglia because it is all contained at the front of the ship. I think it's over 3 levels, if I'm not mistaken. It is not, a lot of Norwegian ships have what they call Haven staterooms, but they are not actually in the Haven. You have access to the Haven and you have key card access to the Haven, but they might be located elsewhere on the ship. Maybe aft, maybe forward, whatever. Here, all of the Haven staterooms are located. I mean, all of the yacht club staterooms are located in the yacht club. So the way it's set up is, I was on deck 16. I actually did a little research, found a YouTube video of the exact room that I wanted, got that exact room. It was 16001. That level, on level 16, right, like maybe 50 steps from my stateroom, is the concierge desk, where Raj and his team, the amazing Raj and his team, basically will handle anything you need, if you want to make dinner reservations or show reservations, or if you want to be escorted somewhere, whatever. So that's right there on deck 16. Also on deck 16 is the Topsail Lounge, which is a private bar and a private lounge that had music every night, and it had a kind of like a miniature buffet that they were constantly changing. This was not a buffet that you would go to for dinner or anything, but it was great for snacking. They had, you never knew what you were going to find. Sometimes they had cookies. Sometimes they had plates of olives. Sometimes they had sun-dried tomatoes on bruschetta. Sometimes they had, cucumber sandwiches. And there were usually about at least 5 or 6 different things out there all day that were changing constantly, that you could go and snack on. So that's on deck 16. There is no deck 17 because I guess it's Italian ships don't do deck 17. It's like their version of 13. So directly above the lounge is deck 18, which is where the private restaurant is. And again, beautiful views, beautiful space. And then you go up to 19, and 19 is the outdoor deck, which it's absolutely stunning. It's got lots of comfy loungers, lots of really cool little places to sit. There's a pool, not a huge pool, but it was certainly big enough. There's a hot tub. There's also, now remember, you got the restaurant downstairs. Up here, you have more of a, almost like a fast food restaurant, although they had more than that. They have a little buffet with all kinds of different, delicious treats up there. And I mean, like, you can order fresh hamburgers. They have hot dogs. They have various seafood things all in the buffet, or you can sit down and they have a menu and you can order off the menu and be served. It's everything, all self-contained within those 3 levels. Just really beautiful. The decor is very subdued. It's sort of a lot of browns and blues. It's not at all flashy or gaudy. Although they do, even in the yacht club, they do have some Swarovski crystal staircases. So don't worry, you won't miss out on those, even if you never leave the yacht club.
Oh, good. I was worried about that. All right.
I know,
Very
right?
nice. So your butler comes and says, hey, your stateroom's ready. Welcome aboard. You go into your stateroom. What kind of stateroom did you book for this 7-nighter up there? Like compared to a typical balcony cabin on Meraviglia, how upgraded was this one, or was it just in a different part of the ship?
I think that it wasn't all that different from what I remember of when I toured other, staterooms outside of there. I think it's a little bit bigger. It has a little more living space. The bathroom is very high end. It's marble everywhere. I practically broke my foot every time I stepped out of the shower onto the marble floor. The shower is huge and has, the rainforest head. They have the shampoos and stuff that are in the bottles attached to the wall, but they're like more higher end than you find in a lot of staterooms. The mini bar, one of the perks of being in a MSC Yacht Club stateroom is the mini bar is included and they refresh it. Now I'm not talking, there's there's not a lot of stuff in there. There's like beers and some various treats and things. But what I did not know was you also get a free bottle of booze. So when my butler, whose name was Heather, and yes, they do have female butlers, when she was sort of talking me through the yacht club experience, she was like, oh, by the way, what bottle do you want? And I thought she meant like a bottle of red or a bottle of white, that cheap wine they're always passing off on all the guests, no matter what stateroom they're staying in. No, she meant bottle of booze. So I was able to get like a full bottle of Jack. And you can take it home, like I didn't open it during the week because I had the drink package. So I got a full bottle of bourbon with it. They also have both sparkling and tap water in bottles that they refresh constantly. But the room itself was really very lovely. Like I said, I don't think it was that much bigger than most standard balconies, but in some ways it did feel roomier. It had lots of closet space, which was nice. There were outside the bathroom on one side, there were there was a closet that opened up on both sides, and then directly across from it was another closet that opened, and then you had lots of drawer space in the room itself. The one thing the room was lacking was plugs, especially modern USB ports and things like that. Like it did not have plugs or USB ports by the bed. There were only, I want to say, 2 plugs, 2 outlets in the whole room, if I'm not mistaken. So that was, that would have been nice. I love when they put a USB port next to the bed. That's very convenient. It did not have that, which seemed a little weird because so much of the room was very modern. Like it had these beautiful touch lights right next to the bed. They also had a reading lamp that was adjustable right next to the bed. So to not have the USB port seemed a little bit weird.
I do wonder sometimes how much of it is psychological. Like the staterooms could be the same, but you have, you're being pampered on hand and foot. You're steps away from the food. Doesn't matter if it's the same size bedroom or not. Or if you're in an inside cabin, you're like, this is the best experience, the best cruise ever,
It really was. Now, a lot of times when I go on cruises, I'm running around trying to do everything and, doing a lot of drinking and whatever. This was not like that. This was, it had been a rough couple of weeks for me. So I decided that I wanted to have a really relaxing trip. So I spent a lot of time in my room. I kept apologizing to my butler because I was like, I know you're probably trying to get in here. I did a lot of reading, a lot of relaxing. But what was cool was after my first meeting with the butler, I came back to the room that night, the first night, and she had left a bowl of these amazing potato chips and some something else. I don't remember what the other thing was. And I mentioned casually how much I enjoyed the potato chips. And I'm telling you, every time I walked out of that room, by the time I came back, there were new bowls of potato chips in that room. I probably ate about 20 pounds of potato chips. And it's totally when we were in the Haven and they kept replacing, what was it?
The gummy bears.
Gummy bears?
Yeah.
Yes. Every time we left the room, they would put more gummy bears in there. This was the exact same thing. Water. I left a note one day saying, oh, there's lots of sparkling water. Can I get more flat water instead? From that day forward, they constantly were refreshing the flat water. if you wanted a pizza at 1 o'clock in the morning, you called your butler and said, and I was like, I don't want to bother you to get a pizza. She's like, nope, that's my job. And if it's not me, it's my assistant, Ernie. One of the two of us will answer the phone at all times and we will get you whatever you want. So yeah,
Nice.
it's nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice. If I could do this all the time, I would. I will add that the price of this yacht club experience was cheaper. It was not much more expensive than you would pay for a regular balcony on like one of Norwegian's newer ships. You would certainly pay a lot more to be in the Haven than you do MSC. MSC is across the board cheaper. And there are ways in which you notice it, especially outside of the yacht club. But comparing my yacht club experience and my retreat experience and my Haven experience, because I've done one of each of those, I think this might have been the best.
Nice.
I really just think that they've got this right. You know, they know what they're doing in the yacht club.
This might be a tough one for you because I know last time you were on board, you didn't get to dine in the main dining room, but I didn't know if you talked to anyone around the ship. Like, how did the food compare from the main dining room to the yacht club?
I did look at the main dining rooms. They were lovely. I meant to go for brunch because they had sea-day brunches in one of the main dining rooms, and they had a really nice menu. But I either ate in the yacht club restaurant or I ate in specialty restaurants because I had purchased a 3-restaurant specialty package. I will say the food across the board was a little bit hit and miss. The menu one thing I liked was that the menu for lunch and dinner in the yacht club changed every day. In the Haven, they only did the lunch menu. You know, the menu was the same every day. So these changed every day. There was a real emphasis on pasta, as you might expect from an Italian line. There were things on that menu I had never heard of, and I was, okay, let's try it. And sometimes it was great. Sometimes it was like, not really my thing. But I think overall, even Carnival, like I've really had great food on Carnival. I think the food here was not quite as good as I might have been expecting in the yacht club restaurant. It was fine, but it wasn't great.
Gotcha. And then I also wanted to ask you, to get in and out, is it pretty secure or could people come and go as they please?
Oh no, it's pretty secure. I mean, like if somebody wanted to get in, they could probably just like walk in behind me. But Raj and the rest of his crew, like when you walk into the yacht club, their desk is right there. They knew everyone. Okay, this is wild. So the first day, while you're sitting around in the yacht club lounge waiting for your butler, Raj, the concierge, comes around and he meets with each group of people. And so I'm sitting there and he's talking to me and 3 other people who came on at the same time as me who had the same butler. And he's talking to me, he stops and he looks at me, he goes, "You've been on this ship before." And I'm like, "Well, I technically, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, you were here for the one-day event." And I was like, how does he remember that? That was a year ago, and it wasn't like we were on for a week. If I had been on a ship for a week, I could see remembering, but that's just how like well-trained and amazing these people are. Now, for all I know, maybe he looked at my record and somehow they had some indication of it, but it seemed 100% genuine that he remembered me a year later, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, a lot of the employees and crew members have a steel trap memory. It's wild. Yeah.
Incredible.
You briefly touched on it earlier, but I want to talk a little bit more about it. The sun deck up there in the Haven, like how exclusive is it? What kind of food options, etc.?
The sun deck was amazing. Lots of comfy loungers. It had a pool, a hot tub, a restaurant. There are 2 private restaurants within the Haven. There's the within the yacht club, there is the regular sit down restaurant, which is a little more formal. And then there's the outdoor sun deck restaurant, which is amazing and serves a really good burger. In fact, I actually preferred the more casual outdoor lounge food than I did the sit-down food in the yacht club formal restaurant.
Okay. Why is that?
It was just good.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a lot of good things up there. Like one day they had, I had gotten a burger and some other stuff, and then they had this shrimp that was perfectly spiced in some kind of Cajun seasoning. And it just, yeah, the food up there was really fantastic and really fresh. Loved it.
All right, so we're out of the yacht club. We're going down to the promenade. What is that area like? Just a bunch of shops and dining like Royal Caribbean's Quantum Class?
Yeah, it's basically the promenade. They call it the Galleria. It's mostly on 2 floors, deck 6 and 7, I believe it is. And it does look sort of like a shopping mall, but a very high-end shopping mall. And they also have restaurants, and each of the specialty restaurants have seating out overlooking the promenade. So you're not looking outside, you're overlooking, the Meraviglia Galleria, which is interesting. I kind of like it. You have to, in order to sit at those seats, that you have to realize there are going to be people constantly walking past you because it is sort of a walkway that they have put tables on. But I liked the idea. I thought it was very cool. There's also, I did not learn this until day 2. So you're walking down the Meraviglia Galleria on level 7, and you come across the champagne bar, and right next to the champagne bar is a casino. And I go in and I'm playing the casino, and I'm like, oh, this is really nice. It's smoke free and it's small though. There's only 40, 50 table games, and 40, 50 slot machines and no table games. This is really unusual. It wasn't until day 2 that I realized this is just like a lounge with slot machines in it. The actual casino is on the same level but further down, and it's huge. So the Galleria is a really central area. It's sort of the equivalent of, it's almost like an atrium in a lot of ways, because they do a lot of things there. For example, all of the evening parties are held there. They gather everybody on the main level down on 6, and then the DJ and the entertainment staff are on almost like a balcony overlooking from deck 7. And so they're up there entertaining you while you're down below dancing. And we'll skip around a little bit, but that is one thing that I did not love. So I am a huge fan of silent discos. I love silent discos. I think it's one of the coolest things to do on a cruise ship. What I did not like was that here, the silent disco, your attention is on the entertainment staff because they are above you and they are dancing and everyone is looking at them and they are talking to you through your headset. There were 2 channels and they would constantly be like, okay, let's all go to the yellow channel. Okay, let's all go to the red channel. And that's not really how a silent disco is supposed to work. So I didn't love that, but the energy they had was phenomenal and something I've never seen before. I want to say it was the last night. It was either the last night or the night before the last night. The crew, like high-ranking members of the crew, came down and were dancing. They were doing the wobble. They were doing, all the cruise ship dances that you do. The entertainment staff was up above with a couple members of the high-ranking crew, and then other members of the crew in their full uniforms are down there with us on the Galleria dancing their hearts out. It is the coolest thing you've ever seen. And it does not, sometimes when the crew comes out for these kind of things, it's like, you can tell they're like kind of annoyed that they have to do this. They were having a complete and total blast. They were competing with each other. It was so much fun. I was so happy that I made the time to go to the various evening parties, which a lot of times I don't.
Before we talk about the other entertainment around the ship, because there is a lot, I want to break off here and talk about other food options you might have done outside of the yacht club. You sent me some pictures of a taco place.
Hola Tacos. So I, before boarding, purchased a package that included 3 specialty dining meals and 1 of the pay shows. They have 2 pay shows on board. They also have free shows in the Broadway Theater, but they have a special carousel theater where they do 2 paid productions. So the weird thing is that when you book specialty dining on a lot of cruises, when you book it, you pick your time and your date and blah, 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 and you can change it later. Here you do not do that. You buy a package and then once on board, you make your reservations, which, I probably wouldn't have loved if I didn't have a concierge, but because I had a concierge, I could just be like, hey, can you get me a table, at the most popular restaurant on the ship on the last night during the most popular hour? And they're like, okay, no problem. So the three specialty restaurants I did were Ola, Tacos, and Cantina, which also, whether you're on the dining package or not, they have this great $24.99 all you can eat special. And the food there was phenomenal. Also, they have Casa Amigos tequila, which not a lot of ships do, so I was very happy about that. But I had they'd start you out with guacamole, fresh made guacamole. Then I had some queso fundido. Then I had 3 miniature tacos. Then I had a burrito. I mean, I had to stop them because they were just like friggin' so much food. So that was definitely an amazing meal. The very last night, I always try and end in a steakhouse. So I went to Butcher's Cut, which is the Meraviglia steakhouse, and had what I would probably say was one of the best meals that I've had in a steakhouse. The steak was perfectly prepared. They had this amazing bone marrow appetizer where they bring you out these 2 things that look like dinosaur bones and you scoop the marrow out. They had an appetizer that was creamed corn with cheddar cheese and jalapeno. I mean, everything was excellent. I did not enjoy Ocean Key. Not the island. I loved the island very much. They have a restaurant on board. It's their seafood restaurant by the same name, which is a little confusing. But it had a very limited menu, and I just didn't find the food particularly great. It was okay. One thing to keep in mind is you can go to any of these restaurants a la carte. If you buy the dining package, however, you are given a special menu. It's a reduced menu from which to order. It does not have everything that the main menu has. You are also given the main menu, and if you want to order something off the main menu, you can do so at I think it's like a 50% discount. But it is a different menu. Like the dining package for each of the 3 restaurants they have a different menu if you're on the dining plan than they do just the regular. It's like you can go in and order anything on the menu. So be very aware of that if you're thinking about doing the dining package on any MSC ship.
Did you breeze through the buffet at all?
I did. Because I wanted to see what it looked like. It was nice. It was pretty good size. It wasn't as crowded as I expected it to be. I had heard, tales of madness there. It was, to me, it looked pretty much like a typical, buffet. They had a carving station. They had salads. They did have some really unusual things. Like they had at one point, it was the salad station. Mm-hmm. There was a kimchi salad that was, there was approximately 20 gallons of. There was a pineapple salad that there was approximately 20 gallons of. Okay. And I don't remember what the third salad was, but I was like, you go to the salad bar, you're thinking, okay, there'll be some romaine lettuce and some tomatoes. No, on this day, at least, it was 3 very unusual salads. But it seemed to have a pretty good selection. I'm trying to think if I tried anything there. I don't think I did because I had the Yacht Club buffet, and might I just point out that on the Yacht Club buffet, they had prime rib and pork shank. So, okay. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. So you mentioned that the package you purchased, you had a couple of paid shows as well. Was that the one that was in the back where the old the Cirque partnership was behind the casino just aft of there? Yep. The Carousel Lounge. Mm-hmm. They do 2 shows. They have Houdini and Rock Circus. I saw Houdini when I was on the ship for the day. And it was a fine show, very enjoyable. I actually never went to see the other one because it just didn't, I had read a little bit about it. It didn't sound all that appealing to me. The other shows I did go to were in the regular theater, the no charge theater, which, by the way, be aware, you cannot bring food and drinks into the main theater, which I thought was so weird. I've never seen that on cruise ships before, but you weren't allowed to bring food and drinks. The shows in there, I saw 2 shows. There were 3. I saw 2 of them. One was called Club Disco, and it was basically, a jukebox musical taking you through the history of disco. And it was bad. It was flat out one of the worst shows I've ever seen on a ship. I kept thinking of you because I know you have a very low tolerance for shows. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I would have walked out, except I was seated in the middle of, there were people on both sides of me, and it was a special yacht club section. It would have been really obvious if I got up and left. But it was terrible. So it was with great reluctance that I went to the second show, knowing it was the same cast. The second show was called Encore, and it was all songs from like Wicked, Les Mis, various Broadway shows. This one was fantastic. And I think after thinking about it, I realized that the difference is most of the troupe, most of the actors in this production, these productions, are young. They're on the youngish side, and they do not really know disco. You know, like disco is a concept to them, but and like there was the choreography was awful. You expect there to be lots of disco dancing in a disco show. It was terrible, really, really bad. And like I said, I think it's because they didn't have a grasp on what disco was, what it looked like. At one point, they all came out wearing, it looked like they were different color Snuffleupagus outfits. It was very weird. Whereas the other show was all theater, you know, Wicked, Les Mis, West Side Story. These are theater kids. They know that, you know, those are eternal shows. So they knew, they immediately got it. They understood it. They knew, you know, you're doing Hairspray. Here's what it's supposed to look like. So that show was fantastic. And it was so weird to me that it was the exact same cast as the other show, which was, again, I cannot stress how bad it was. It was so bad.
Did we hit everything as far as entertainment? How did the casino treat you? I know you don't like that buffalo machine.
No, I do not. I do not. And I played it a little bit in your honor, but it did not treat me well. Overall, though, the casino treated me pretty good. I mean, you know my philosophy. I take as much as I expect to lose. If I come home with, you know, if I come home with any money, then they didn't get it all and I won. And I came home with a lot of money, not as much as I took, but I came home with a nice substantial amount to take on my next sailing. So it was a nice casino. It's very smoky. Even they have a non-smoking section. And I'm talking about the main casino. The smaller casino, there is no smoking. It's very nice. The only problem with it is it's kind of hard to get any kind of service because it's away from the bar that they use in the main casino. But in the main casino, it's very smoky. The machines aren't on top of one another, and they have a decent selection of machines. They even had some really, really new ones, which I find a lot of times that when you go on a cruise, they don't necessarily have the latest casino games. You know, this had some really, really popular, very new games like Huff and More Puff, Mystery of the Lamp, things like that are newer. So I was really excited about that. And like I said, I did okay. So, yeah, gonna complain.
The smoke situation in and around it, what'd you think?
Smoky. Yeah. And, if there's one sort of good thing about it, it's that the casino is set down a long hallway. So it's not like on a lot of Norwegian ships, the casino, especially on ones that have 6, 7, 8 Ocean Place, the casino sort of, the smoke drifts down into restaurants and stuff like that because they're right there next to the casino. Here you had separation between the casino and kind of the rest of the ship. So it wasn't quite as bad. I will also say they had maybe the biggest casino bar I've ever seen. It was huge. And it was nice because it was pretty easy to get a drink there. They also had plenty of servers on the floor, as long as you were in the main casino, not the sort of casino annex that down the hallway. That one, it was kind of hit and miss whether you were going to get a drink or not.
How were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion?
There were times when I was absolutely blown away by how empty the ship seemed. Like you would be walking in on a sea day, maybe you'd be walking down the Galleria and you were like, where is everybody? You know, I mean, you'd see people around, but it just, I don't think I ever found the ship to feel crowded. Now, apparently some of the bars at night felt crowded. People in the Facebook group I was in were talking about that a little bit, but you know, I never had trouble getting a seat in a restaurant. I was up in the I spent time up on the sun deck, both the regular sun deck and the sun deck in the yacht club, and neither really felt overly crowded at any point. So I was pleasantly surprised by, whether sea day or not, how well this ship seemed to handle crowds. Now, I don't know, again, I don't know how much of that is influenced by the time I spent in the yacht club, which was a lot of time. But overall, I didn't notice. Another thing I want to point out about the yacht club is the perks. We didn't really talk about the perks other than the bottle of booze, which of course was one of my favorites. But they also, when you are staying in the yacht club, you get the internet package. And not just one, you get the internet package for 2 devices. So it wasn't one of those situations where I had to like log off my phone to get on my computer and then log back on my computer to get off my phone. You were able to access both at the same time, which was really nice. You also got the premium drink package, which covered just about everything on the ship. There may have been a few things that it didn't cover, and in those cases you paid the difference. But it covered, the high-end tequilas and stuff like that. And that was included as part of your yacht club experience. Now, the one thing that didn't work out the way that they say it will is supposedly, and they tell you this as you're checking in and you're getting on board, supposedly if you use your yacht club entrance card or your wristband, because they also have the wristband, if you use it to summon an elevator and then push the button in the elevator and use it again, it will like basically skip everybody else's floor and take you directly to the yacht club. I never saw that happen. My butler tried to use it and it didn't happen for her. So that is one perk that I'm not so sure really exists. Although, like I said, I saw several of the butlers, quote unquote, doing it. It just didn't work. But you can also get newspapers, like they'll print out a newspaper for you. I like getting a daily copy of the ship's newsletter. I will say MSC's app is awful, much like their actual website. They are not good with technology for the most part. You can't do a lot of things with the app. You can't like book restaurants and things through the app, at least not easily. It just is not what you would expect from a modern cruise line. Like I said, I don't find their website to be very user friendly either. But yeah, so those are the main perks that go with being in the yacht club.
Now, with the itinerary here, you left Brooklyn. You were supposed to go to Port Canaveral, Nassau, and Ocean Key. However, you had your first medical emergency of 3 of them you had on board. You were diverted to Charleston, so that took out Nassau for timing's sake, and you just went to Port Canaveral and then Ocean Key, then back up to New York. So let's talk about Port Canaveral. I know you've been there a lot. Sometimes you go over to Disney. Sometimes you hang around Cocoa Beach. What did you do this time?
Nothing. I didn't even get off the ship.
Okay.
I figured I've got the yacht club. Why not enjoy it? So there was a launch. They were doing a launch over at the Kennedy Space Center that they announced to us and said, it'll be at, I don't know, let's say 4:50 or something. And I somehow missed it. I thought I was looking at the Kennedy Space Center the entire time. And then this guy comes up and he's like, are you waiting for the launch too? I'm like, yeah. And this whole group of people in front of us are like, yeah, you missed it. It happened like 10 minutes ago. I was like, I was right here, but somehow I missed it. So yeah, I didn't do anything there. I was a little disappointed that we skipped Nassau. Not like a big deal. I've been to Nassau a million times, but there's a really, as part of the new area at the pier in Nassau, there's a really great little wine bar that features local artists. And I love visiting that place every time I'm there because they're constantly changing their stuff. And they have artists there working on stuff that you can actually talk to. So I was sad that I didn't get to go there, but that's okay.
And it was your first time at Ocean Cay. How was it?
And it was really amazing. When you get off the ship, Raj, your concierge, who seems to be everywhere, basically greets you and puts you in a little tram and sends you over to the private part of the island where they have, I think it's called the Yacht Club House or something, the Yacht House or something like that, where they have really amazing, delicious food available. You don't have to go to the buffet or anything. You can sit at a table and they'll serve you. And your butlers are there. Like, I looked up and there's my butler. They bring the butlers over so that they can take care of you while you're at Ocean Key. I will say the beach over at the yacht club is not the best beach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rock beach. You can't even get to the beach. It's all big, huge rocks. They sell cabanas, cheaper than Carnival, but still very expensive. And you can get them in the yacht club area. But I highly recommend that if you decide that you're going to do this, you get the one that, if you're facing the ocean, is all the way to the left, because it is right next to the quote unquote, public beach, the one that is not the yacht club. And it's a much, much nicer beach. Mm-hmm. You're going to want to be spending your time on that beach, but you can still get a yacht club cabana, meaning that, nobody can access that side of the beach. So, be very careful when planning that. Also, they are now selling day beds, but these are not day beds like you see on Coco Cay. Mm-hmm. These are basically kind of glorified clamshells for the most part, and they are only at the foot of the lighthouse, like by the lighthouse bar. It did not look all that special at all. It was surprising to me that I thought that they would have day beds for rent on the beach, but no, they really only have them in this very small sort of roped off area at the Lighthouse Bar, which is one of the main bars in the main area, not the yacht club area, but in the main area. They're also adding a lot to the housing. Mm-hmm. There are like 200 people who actually live on the island, and the housing for them looks really cool. It looks like a Disney hotel, like brightly colored. It looks like here at the Caribbean Beach Club over at Disney. They are expanding that. And there's a lot of beautification. There are a lot more trees and a lot more grassy areas and stuff like that than there were. This is not like Perfect Day where, there's water slides and all that, hot air balloons and all that. This is very basic, very back to nature. You can rent, jet skis, things like that. But this is not the kind of place where when you get there, your kids are going to be pointing at the water slides and saying, "Mom, please pay $100 so we can go ride that water slide." None of that. So that's very nice. They have a main buffet area for everybody. They also have some food trucks scattered around so that if you're not right next to the food buffet, you can still get some. Some is included, some is for a charge. Overall, it's a really beautiful island. It's very well run and does not feel as tourist trappy as maybe Perfect Cay or even Great Stirrup feel. Those are a little more developed. There's a nice little village with some shops and stuff with locally made stuff if you want to buy that. But it just does not have the penny, the constant desire to fork over money. You can easily go here and not spend money.
So you had a couple of sea days back to Brooklyn. So how were those sea days? I know it's been kind of crazy out there in the Atlantic with the storms and the crazy fronts moving through. Was it pretty nice weather heading back north?
It was decent. The yacht club is at the front of the ship, the very front of the ship. And my particular stateroom was almost as far forward as you could go. If I looked out on my balcony, if I looked down, I was basically right above the captain. So I was definitely at the front of the ship, and you could feel it. There were, especially coming back, we had one day in particular where it wasn't rough seas or anything, but it was noticeable seas. I'm sure for some people it probably, left them laying in their bed like Linda Rogo from the Poseidon Adventure, but it didn't seem that bad to me. And I didn't really hear anybody complaining about it. We had pretty good weather the whole trip.
Is the debark process just as nice and fancy as the embark?
Even easier.
Nice.
So, I usually do self-disembarkation to take my luggage and all that, but I had a huge suitcase and I just didn't feel like doing it. So I left it out the night before, I let them take it. And I asked the concierge, I said, my car's picking me up at 8:30. What are my odds of being off the ship time? He's like, "Oh, we'll take you off whatever time you want." So, that morning they wanted you out of your staterooms by 7:30, which was fine. I went to the top sail lounge and had a drink, and then Heather, my butler, came over and said, "All right, just let me know when you're ready." I told her when I was ready, and she took me directly down, took me to the very front of the line, and walked me off the ship. So, doesn't get any easier than that.
In terms of money spent, though, let's say we're comparing it against Norwegian Cruise Line and the Haven. How much cheaper is the MSC Meraviglia against the Haven experience for 7 days out of New York?
It was thousands less because I was looking at other things because I wanted to do, I can't remember which was, Prima, Viva. One of them was here for a few weeks and I was like, oh, let's try the Haven on that. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, no, not even I will not pay that much. This was, I didn't even blink. It like I said, it really was not that much more expensive than a balcony cabin on Prima Viva, a ship like that. So, and it was, well, look, here's another comparison. So a couple of years ago, I flew down to Florida, my one time flying, to do a cruise and did Mardi Gras. And Mardi Gras was $3,000 more for the suite. And they don't have like a private restaurant. They don't have a private bar. They don't have, they have Loft 19, but that just does not compare. And that was $3,000 more than this one was.
Well, as we wind down here, any first time tips for someone who may be considering sailing MSC Meraviglia out of the New York City metro area?
I would say take the negative things you will hear in advance. Not seriously, but let them be sort of a guide as to what you should expect. Like I said, the food was not the best. It was good. But I don't know if outside of the yacht club, it might be even, less good. Things like that, taken into account. People always say you get what you pay for. And with MSC in general, and certainly Meraviglia in particular, you are paying less. So you might notice that in some ways. One thing to be very aware of is this is a ship with an international, group of passengers. I have never felt on a cruise ship, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I felt like I assume this is what it would be feeling like if I was sailing in Europe or something, and that there were a lot of people who did not speak the same language that I do. They did not, I had heard in advance that they make announcements in like 5 different languages. I never noticed that. They did 2 languages. They did American and then, or they did English, and then I believe they did either Chinese or Japanese. I'm not 100% sure which, but that was it. It wasn't overly annoying. They didn't, I've heard that they make a lot more announcements than other people do. I didn't really notice that. I mean, they weren't terribly intrusive, but just kind of keep in mind that this is a line that is not as familiar with the American passenger and what they expect as might be Carnival or Norwegian or Royal Caribbean, which were established here. This is a line that was established elsewhere and is now trying to break into the market. So, there are going to be some bumps in your road, guaranteed. Just be prepared for it, like with any cruise.
Your biggest highlight over this 7-night cruise?
Geez, I mean, I would just say the yacht club as a whole. I'm so glad I did it. Whenever you do something where you spend a little extra money or a lot of extra money, depending on the case, you always worry like, am I going to regret it? Should I just have done a normal cruise? And I did feel like I regretted it when I did Carnival Mardi Gras. I was like, that was not worth the price that I paid there. Here, I did not feel that at all. I was really happy with everything about the yacht club experience. So, I mean, just being able to do that was, I guess, my high.
And in closing here, your final thoughts of MSC Meraviglia.
I love it. I mean, the best compliment I can pay is that I am bothered by the fact that I already have most of my 2025 cruises booked because I really want to squeeze another in on Meraviglia. It's a beautiful ship. It's really, Really beautiful throughout. And there are so many little details and special little things like the chocolate shop. They have their own chocolate shop on board. And I don't mean chocolate shop that sells you chocolate. I mean chocolate shop that you can stand there and watch them make incredible chocolate treats. I found the crew to be incredibly friendly, just lovely all around. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying to figure out when I can get back in the yacht club again.
We've been talking with staff writer Richard Sims about his 7-night Meraviglia cruise out of Brooklyn. Richard, thank you so much for sharing, buddy.
Always glad to be here.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,